Hey guys, Andy coming at you with a little happy back program. I know a lot of you might be suffering from some back issues, and stress certainly doesn't help. So hopefully this little program will help you get a little bit of relief. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is use a ball. Yoga tune-up ball or a tennis ball works great. You can do this laying down on your back and place the ball underneath your glute. I'd like to do a few little clamshells to just kind of find where the ball really needs to go. So I move it around until I find the location that seems to be serving me best. So that's what I'm doing here. And then once I find that, I'll start to roll myself back and forth. So I'm covering all the tissue on my glutes. Gluteus medius, gluteus maximus, gluteus minimus. I might even find my way up to sit and place the ball a little bit more on the outer part of my glute and lean a little bit. So I'm on the right side, so I'm leaning a little to the right. I can do this upright, or I can come down onto my elbow as well. And I might do some of those clamshells again. So the glutes are really important to get not only released but strong, and we'll go into that also. But having tension in the glutes can actually pull on your low back. So it can cause issues and pain and tension in the low back. So releasing them can be really, really beneficial. And I might roll around a little bit on there too. So at least 90 seconds in terms of the release, and up to 5 minutes is great. Too much more than that, you might be doing a little overkill. So somewhere between 90 seconds and 5 minutes would be great. And then we'll do the other side. So again, I'm going to do a little clamshell type maneuver with my left knee in and out. And I'll keep moving the ball around until I find an area where I go, ooh, that's the spot. But not an area where I feel like I can't take a deep breath. It's so intense, I can't take a deep breath. No sharp shooting pain, no numbness. Once I find the spot, I'll start to move my body. And again, this is a happy back program, so all of this will help your back feel better. Also helps knee problems, hip problems. Glutes are really involved in a lot of what our body does. And if one side seems tighter than the other, spend more time on that side. And again, maybe finding my way up to sit a little bit more on the outside of my glute here. And a little clamshell there. Oh, you see my little pup in the background. All right, so maybe I come down onto my forearm. And maybe I move around a little bit. This can be done on a foam roller as well. Of course, you won't be able to get into specific areas the same way you would be able to do with a ball. So again, a little yoga tune-up ball is an option, or even a tennis ball. Not a big fan of a lacrosse ball, so I wouldn't really recommend a lacrosse ball. Too hard. All right, so the next thing I'm going to demonstrate for you is a bridge. So you can do a two-footed bridge. And if your back is really flared up, I would start with a two-footed bridge. So the feet will be on the floor, about hip-width distance. Careful they're not too close. If they start being too close to your body, then you'll start being more in the thighs, the front of the thigh, versus the hamstring and the glute, which is where we want to feel this. So feet about hip width, walk your feet to a distance where you feel it in the hamstrings and your glutes. So we'll lift up, core is tight. Now I'm not pressing so high up that I start to come into really big back extension. I'm actually coming to fairly parallel right here. So knees, hips, or actually it's a line, knees, hips, shoulders, all in just a downward line right here. Okay, so I'm not hyperextending here. And then we go just slowly up and down. If up and down hurts in any way, you might want to simply hold isometrically. And there's options to make this a little bit more challenging. You can put some weight across your hips, but really listen to what your body needs. Sometimes a little less is actually going to serve you better. So the other option is to start going into a single-legged version. The leg can be up, and again, lifting up and down here. Okay, like that. And then maybe if you need a little more support, ankle over thigh. So lifting up and down here, and again, isometric could also be an option for you. So I lift up and down. If the knee or the back doesn't like the leg up, then I recommend this version. And so you go until you feel like you're at a fatigue point, but with good form. So if you start to suffer in terms of your form, you start getting sloppy and start doing some weird things or having to press with your arms to help you lift, then you're probably done. That's probably enough. And again, a modification right here, ankle over thigh. If your knee or your back doesn't like the version with the leg up, try ankle over thigh. And I'm going to show you one more option here. It's even just a little bit more supported. It's not 2 feet down, it's not 1 foot up, but it's kind of in between. So I'm doing the work with my right leg, but I'm assisting a little bit with this left leg, just a little bit with my heel. And then again, I could go through a range of motion up and down. And just doing enough reps that you feel like you're getting to a fatigue point, but with good form. Okay, so that's your bridge variations. The next is a dead bug or a dying bug. So this one, it's really important to pay really close attention to what's happening with your lower back. Rib and hip bone move closer together. I'm pressing my low back as flat as I can. That doesn't mean it's going to go completely flat for everybody, so just keep that in mind. So I bring actually I'll show you the most basic version. Arms are up, retracting my shoulder blades down. Core is engaged. Not a lot of space or no space back here, so I feel this core firing up already. And then I simply, very slowly, start to alternate lifting my knees. That might be plenty for some of you. The next level up would be to start with my knees elevated, my feet elevated. Again, little or no space back here, engaging the core. And I start to slowly lower, very slow, 1 foot at a time. And you'll notice I'm keeping that 90-degree angle on the leg. So I'm not doing this. I'm reaching at about a 90-degree angle down. Okay. For some of you, that's still going to be not quite enough. So you could start to maybe extend the leg out. But if this starts to happen, sway back, it's too much. But if it feels like it's what's appropriate for you, you just slowly alternate. And then one last option. You can do it with one or both arms. Sometimes it's just easier to do it with both so you don't get confused which arm goes. But the leg goes out and the arms reach out at the same time. One leg and both arms. Very slow, no space behind the back. And then if all of that is still way too easy, and please really honor what you need, you could do some of both at the same time. But you'll notice no space is coming behind my back. Deep down core muscles working there. So that's dying bug, dead bug variations. The next one is called a bird dog. I don't know why. Oh, maybe it's because the dogs that search for the bird. Oh, it just registered to me. All right, so hands and knees, core is drawn in tight. So it's like the dogs that point out where the birds are. I get it. Okay. So the opposite arm and leg lift. Now I'm going to show you the variation that I actually feel works a little bit more. So right hand lifts off 1 or 2 inches, left knee lifts off 1 or 2 inches. Okay, so this isn't technically the bird dog, but it's in the direction of moving there. Core working. Okay, I'm not letting my body wiggle around much. If it does, just try to stabilize. Now the actual bird dog is opposite arm and leg reaching So you can even hold this, one option, for maybe 20-30 seconds. You could hold this, maybe 20 or 30 seconds, or reach and then return to that hover position. Reach and return. Okay. Again, if you start to feel any pain in your back, come back to an easier version. Maybe just one hand lifts. That might be plenty for you. Maybe just one knee lifts. Okay, so let's do the other side. Opposite hand and knee, left hand, right knee. My neck is neutral. I'm not dunking it down or cranking it up. Maybe I simply hold that, or maybe I simply hold opposite arm and leg reaching. I'm the bird dog. Or maybe I move back and forth. And I'm breathing. But now my breathing, speaking of breathing, is going to be more into my ribs so that I can keep my deep down core muscles tight. So if I breathe deeply into my belly, some of that will start to release a little bit. We want to keep the lower core drawn in. So now I take deep breaths, but more laterally. I'll do a whole nother video on breathing. Okay, plank variation. So your basic plank is going to be on the forearms and the toes. So I'm thinking rib and hip bone moving closer together. Any kind of plank is a anti-extension exercise. This is extension. I'm doing anti-extension. So I hold. You start getting longer than a minute on these holds. You really need to think about doing something to make it more challenging, not just adding on more time. Okay, I'm going to show you some options to make it more difficult, but I also want to back it off so you see a modified version. So if I'm doing this on my knees, it's a modified version. So I can tuck my toes under here and bring my elbows to the earth. I draw my rib cage and my hip bones closer together, and then I come into this modified version. This is actually not easy. Notice everything is in one straight line. I'm not sticking my rear end up. I'm not hunching down into my belly. Everything is tight and I'm holding. Okay, so that's a modified version. Another way you can modify is to bring yourself up onto an elevated surface. Bring your elbows onto a table or a chair or a bench. So that would make it a little bit easier. Now, if you're going to be doing your basic version of a plank on the floor, but you want to make it harder, you can bring your elbows down and your toes to the earth and do things like a tap out. You can do something like a Spider-Man. One of the things that will really help engage the core is when your elbows are down, you think about drawing your elbows towards you. So I'm not just hanging out, I'm drawing in, but if you press your elbows down, almost like you're trying to drag your elbows back, oh, you will absolutely feel the core firing up. So that just gives you a little extra. So I'm doing that right now. You probably can't tell, but I'm really dragging, like I'm trying to drag my elbows back towards me. Now, for some reason, elbows don't work, shoulders don't like it. You never know. Maybe you've got something going on with your elbows. Come onto the hands. Okay, this is also a plank. It's just a high plank. Same options, tippy toe, Spider-Man. On this one, you can even go across the body. Not as easy to do when you're on your elbows or your forearms. So always listening to your back, making sure you're not feeling any strain in the back. If you start to do, back it off to something easier, something not as challenging, something on one of the modifications. All right, so plank variation. Now we have a side plank option. There goes my pup again. All right, so forearm on the ground into a side plank. So I'll show you the modification first. Please don't go to the bathroom. All right, so modified version of the side plank. So right here we've got a modified side plank. I'm on my knees. You could also extend the top leg and do a modified version with one leg out. Okay. I can hold this. Okay. This is the most easiest version of this. So this is one option. Another modification again would be to bring your arm up onto a elevated surface like we did on the other one. Next level up, staggered feet, so my top foot is in front of the bottom foot. A little bit harder, stack the feet. A little bit harder, lift the leg. Then these are all just holding isometrically. You can make things more difficult with a hip lift, a little bit of a rotation, or even a lift up and down of the top leg. Again, if elbow doesn't like that, maybe try the version where you're on your hand. We'll do the other side. I'll go through those same options. So, knees down, right here. Maybe top leg is out for a little more support. Next version, top leg is in front of the bottom. Everything stacked, so not twisted. Next level up, stacking the feet. I'm really pressing down to lift up. Next level up, top leg moves, or actually top leg just holds. And then we have the option of rotations, and a hip lift, or a leg lift. All right. Good. So we have curl up variations. So we'll come down onto your back. So whatever leg is extended, that hand goes behind your back. Now the first thing I recommend here is similar to what we did earlier. Think about rib cage and hip bone moving closer together. Buddy, they can't see. All right. See how healthy he is now. It makes me so happy. Okay, so hip bone and rib cage closer together. Okay. And then just lift off the tiniest bit. So more of a neutral curve in your spine. So here's me flattening out completely. Here's me lifting up enough that there's the neutral curve happening. And then from there, opposite hand behind the head for support if you need it. If you don't have to do it. And lift nose to ceiling or sky. Right now it's the sky. All of this is working, and I lower down. Now ways that you can make this a little bit more challenging, all of that, I engage, then I lift off just the teeniest bit so I've got neutral spine. I can lift my right leg. Again, nothing changes here, and then I lift up. Notice I'm not rounding, I'm lifting straight up. And I'm holding for maybe 20 seconds, and then I release. Switching sides. If my left leg is out, it's my left hand behind my back, right hand behind my head, and it's not necessary that the hand goes behind your head, it's just nice for some neck support. I like it. So I'm pressing down and flattening out my hand, smashing my hand, and then I'm lifting up just enough that I'm in a neutral curve now. So I'm engaging, but I've got a neutral curve happening now in my low back. And then I lift straight up. The curve does not change in my back. It stays the same. Maybe 20 seconds, you release. More challenging than that, all the same setup. I'm pressing down to flatten out the back, and then I lift off just to find myself into a neutral position. My leg lifts, and my body comes straight up. Again, I'm not curling up this way, even though it's called a curl up. You're lifting straight up. These look really easy, but they are not. All right, good. So that's the last one I have for you today, and I will bring you more. There's definitely more that we can do. And just repeat those maybe once or twice. Listening to your body, maybe you only do one or two of those, maybe you do them all. Really listening to what point you feel fatigue and you're starting to take it into your back. We're not going for that. We're actually trying to work the deep down core muscles in all of these. And of course the first one was more of the glutes. I will also show you some exercises that you can do that do strengthen the back itself. The thing is, for most of us, oftentimes the back is actually pretty strong because the back likes to take over a lot of things that we do. Even though it shouldn't be doing the work, oftentimes it does anyway. So oftentimes the back is actually plenty strong. It's the deep down core muscles and all the supporting stuff, your glutes and hips, that are weak and not doing their job. So the poor little back gets to do it all, which is why a lot of us end up in pain. All right, so that's what I have for you today, and I'm also going to be doing a separate video with a bunch of stretches that you can do specifically for your back. All right, you guys, I will see you soon.